Hello, everybody. Joe the Lawyer here from Analog Man Cave. Thanks for watching. All right, today, session zero point 0.5. What in the hell is that? It's something that I'm not sure where I got it from. Maybe Tim Shorts, because he's the one who got me into the whole session. I think had to be Tim Shorts. Yeah, he's the one who started this off. Sort of like a pre-game game. You know what I mean? It's basically where you sit down and you with each individual player in your campaign, you do a little mini session. Okay, a couple hours, 2-3 hours, and essentially what you're doing is getting the kinks out. You're kicking the tires on the character, on the system, making sure they understand things. Now what Tim used to do is he was made more than me. He would do a whole PDF, format art and a whole bit, talking about my character's background and all that, and where he came from. Basically I'd give him the broad strokes, right? Because old school, you don't create this 98-page freaking short novel background, right? So what he would do is I give him the broad strokes. Here's where I want to be. Here's where I'm from, and he'd do up the whole background thing. Here's what you know. Here's your contacts. Here's some information for you. Here's where the lands, where you're from, and the whole bit. So I don't do that far. I did ask though for some basic background stuff, and I incorporated that into like a little Word document, like a page, a few paragraphs, and I typed up, because here's the thing: people who want to create these big elaborate backgrounds, they know nothing about your setting, right? They know nothing about where they're going to be adventuring. They know nothing about anything, really. And so all they're truly doing is writing some fictional piece, which you're then forced to sort of shoehorn into your setting. It doesn't make any sense. But if they give me the broad strokes, my father's a professor at a university in the city, because they're going to know they're in a city, right? And my two characters are brothers, and one is this class and one is that class, and here's their race, and maybe broad stroke personality stuff, what they're into. Cool. Couple sentences, I could work with that, and I did. All right, so I wrote up some backgrounds for each of the PCs. For my brother, it's easy. Each PC, there's two players in a group. Each are playing two PCs. All right, my brother's is easy because he has the brothers. Thank you very much. That's easy, easy for me. My friend Pete, he's playing two different characters who sort of know each other through where one's a dwarf, and and his father owns a brewery, and the other guy worked for his father as the bouncer. Perfect. All right. So how did they meet? That's my background little story for them, right? Once I get that, I send it over. I say, hey, take a look at this. Does it make sense? Is it good for you? Yeah. All right, good. Add in anything that's consistent that you want. Tell me stuff that you don't want, and we'll figure something out. No problems. They did it, right? And so the next part of it is actually session 0.5. And that's where you sit down and just play, right? So I scheduled my brother first. We sat down. We had a little adventure, little get to know each other, get to know his background. And it always ends with a little bit of a combat of some sort, or a potential combat, right? So to kick the tires on using your weapons and rolling your dice, and do things make sense. And, that way also they could get a gauge for the lethality of my DMing style of this adventure, of this campaign, what they're in for, right? They understand, all right, that's tougher than I thought, maybe in traditional 5th edition game. Because remember, it's my 5e hack, right? So it's, wow, that's harder than I thought. All right, I need to know I can't really do this. I should do that instead. Perfect. The other part of it too is that there's this whole thing about if the old school games that if the character dies, he dies, no mercy, rolls out in the open and all that. But here's the exception to that rule is in session 0.5, and here's why. You're not there to kill the characters. You're not there to give them it's sort of like it's like a training ground area. You ever play video games where they have this training so that you can learn how to use the controls and play with the characters, and you're not going to die in the training? You do some bullshit boring missions, or fetch this or kill that, or and you get XP or whatever the reward is in the video game for doing certain things. This is what I equate session 0.5 to, right? Because there were assumptions made about what's based on the old 5th edition or whatever. How hard is this going to be? And certain people did certain things. At one point I said, you're going to die. Just take out a character here. This is DM advice. Basically, I know the system, I know how hard it is, and you may not know it yet. I said, why'd you do that? That didn't make any sense. You should have led with this. You should have done that. You have all these things, and it turns out that when I asked, are you ready to go? The player was not ready to go. He didn't pick certain things on his character sheet, so he didn't know what he had. He didn't know what he didn't have. So I'm like, oh, shit. So I meant my bad, right? I should have looked at his character sheet. I should have said, did you pick this? Did you pick that? If not, why not? Do you not understand it? Where is it at? What's going on with this? And that would have helped, sort of like put things into their head. So I said, all right, stop. This is going to be a death, right? Your two PCs are going to croak here within 2 rounds because of poor decisions based on misunderstandings, not knowing the class maybe that well, not understanding certain abilities. Starting again. All right, roll for initiative again. We're going to do this again. And now that you understand that you've picked these certain things, that you understand more about the abilities and all that, maybe what you should have led with, maybe you got nervous, right? We're going to start again. So and then we did and kicked ass, right? So it worked out well. And through that, the players each got some background information for their characters, right? They got some information that when the two groups of two PCs each get together, they're going to be able to bring something to the table. And that's pretty much how it went down, right? In session 1. So yeah, so more video coming on that later too. So keep your eyes peeled, right? And hey, if you like this, please do click like and subscribe. Speaking of which, all right, I do appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm if you to throw a comment in there too, or a thumbs up, just to, hey, thanks, like the video, whatever the hell it is. It helps with the algorithm. But so that's pretty much my take on what session 0.5 is supposed to be. All right, it's somewhere between session 0 where you roll up the character sheets and session 1 where all the PCs all get together, all the players, and they sit down and have their big first inaugural adventure. So that's my take on it. That's what you're in training wheel mode, right? You're messing around, you're learning the ropes, figuring out your PCs, and you're not doing it in public. It doesn't matter. The stakes aren't critical. You could reset if you want to based on reasons. All right. So anyway, that is my session 0. Please do like, subscribe, everybody, and check back in here for over the next few days. You're going to see some more videos on what's going on in the campaign. All right. Appreciate it all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.